Hello and welcome to my vintage audiophile channel. This is now my 18th video, and today I have a MCS 6202 turntable in front of me, which for some reason isn't working. Last time I used it, it was working. So this video is going to be a little tutorial on how to determine what's wrong with a record player when it doesn't play. As you can see, when I turn this over to here, the platter should start turning, and it isn't. It was working fine not too long ago, so I'm reasonably sure that the motor isn't dead. It is plugged in, so the fact that this is a belt drive turntable leads me to believe that there might be something wrong with the belt. I don't know, maybe the belt slipped off the gears to so that it's not engaging, or the belt could have broken, or the belt may have stretched out too much so it's loose and not engaging. But we're going to find out together exactly what's wrong with this. So the first thing I do when I want to do that is I put this back down here so this doesn't move and I don't destroy the needle by mistake. So I'm going to take off the platter protected cover that goes between the platter and the record, for padding on the record so it doesn't have direct contact with the platter. And as you can see, we have a platter here that is kind of just moving freely, which makes me suspect that there's probably something wrong with the belt, because usually there's enough tension on the belt when it is working right to prevent it from just moving freely like that. If it does move freely, it's going to stop pretty quickly, but this one just seems to keep going and going and going. So I am going to check it out and see what's going on. To do that, I put my hands here and gently pull it up. And for some reason it's not coming off. Oh, there we go. Okay, well, I see there is no belt here, and there's no belt laying in here, and I know there was a belt on here, so I'm assuming that there is a belt still on the platter itself, and there it is. And as you can see, we have a broken belt, and that is the type of thing I despise the most about belt drives. Is if you don't use them all the time, they will harden and break on you, or and it's really messy to get that off. I've done different things over the years to figure out how to make it less messy, but it doesn't really seem to matter. The first thing I do in something like this is I get a utility knife or something and gently scrape the belt off. And because it's like this, we know it's going to be stuck on, so that's why we need to use a utility knife to get that off. I will basically pause the video for a moment so that I can round up the necessary supplies. I will tell you ahead of time that I use the utility knife, I use rubbing alcohol, and I also use lots of paper towels. And it does get messy at times. Hopefully this one won't be too messy, but we'll find out. So let me pause this while I go get the necessary supplies, and I will be right back. Thank you for waiting. I am back now. I have a utility knife, some isopropyl alcohol, and a paper towel. I'm going to put the paper towel under it to try to catch whatever I'm scraping off. I'm going to turn it on its edge like this, and I'm going to start gently scraping stuff off. And you can see it comes off not too hard on this one. Sometimes they're really bad. This one, I guess, hasn't been sitting long enough. As you can see, that's what the belt looks like once you scrape it off. It doesn't usually come all in one piece. It usually comes in multiple pieces. And just because this is going to take a few minutes, I don't want to bore you with the details, so I'm going to pause the video once again so that I can scrape the rest of it off. And then we'll get to the next step, which involves isopropyl alcohol, which you use to clean up the residue stickiness left behind by the belt, because you don't want that on there, because that will stick to the new belt and it will seize the belt up or make it extremely difficult to play, and you won't get the correct speed. So in order to do that, you need to use the isopropyl alcohol to get off the remaining, as you can see here, the remaining stuff. Once that is all off, you won't see a dark ring or anything anymore. So I'm going to pause it right now while I scrape the rest of this off, and when I come back, we'll be ready to use the isopropyl alcohol and get this thing back up and running, hopefully. Hopefully there's not anything else wrong with this turntable, but we'll find out together. So let me pause this for a moment, and we will come back and start the isopropyl step. And I'm back with the belt completely removed. I was pretty lucky on this one. They came off in fairly good big pieces, but that isn't always the case. If it's been on there a long time and you didn't know about it or assumed that everything was okay, and you take a look at it, sometimes it is just a gooey, sticky mess, which really makes it hard to get off. And it takes a lot longer to do, but this one I lucked out on. So I am going to take this and set it aside, and then I'm going to use a fresh paper towel with some isopropyl alcohol on it, and I'll start getting off some of the residue that's left on here so that we have a fresh start, so to speak, on our platter. Our platter is aluminum. When you're scraping off stuff on aluminum, it's kind of soft, so you want to be careful that when you're scraping that you don't scrape too hard, because you have the potential of possibly putting scratches on the platter inner part there, and that's not good because it will affect the belt. If it has to go over little bumps of raised aluminum, it's not going to track very true. It's going to have little hiccups in it, so to speak. So be careful when you're doing it. If you are not comfortable doing it with a razor blade, you can try something else. I find that a razor blade is sharp enough to where it gets it off pretty well, but there are other things you could probably use. If it's really gooey, you might even be able to just kind of scrape it off with a alcohol soaked rag or paper towel, but it's going to be very messy, I'll guarantee you that. And the only thing I've ever really found that works the best to get that gooey stuff off your fingers once you're done is just isopropyl alcohol. Soap, other cleaners just don't seem to cut it, and for whatever reason isopropyl works really well on something like this, and that's why I always use it. I always keep a bottle on hand just for a case like this, or for any other thing that I need to use for cleaning. It's pretty benign. It won't damage too many things, so that's good. I try not to use it anywhere on wood because that might stain it or otherwise do something bad to it. But when it comes to aluminum, it's completely fine. So I'm going to put a little on a rag here. And I actually put a little too much on, but that's okay. And I'm just going to start gently rubbing this. And as you can see, it takes a little bit to get it off, but it's worth it in the end to start with a clean slate, so to speak. Sometimes the staining from the belt will not come off fully, but as long as there's no gooey residue on it, you should be fine. It ends up just being little stained, which you won't even see once the belt is in place, because it will cover it up, and you will never know that there's a stain there unless you take the belt off, or you'll know because you replaced it, but nobody else will know. Even though it is, like I say, it's an inside thing that nobody's ever really going to see. It's still nice to try to get off as much as you can, and you can see there's, like I say, a little bit of residue, but if you put your finger on it, you won't feel any residual goo or anything like that on it, and that's what you want. Some people may even take a very fine Scotch pad or something and, you know, try to make it look a little bit better, but I would not recommend that, because you run the risk of putting some micro scratches on it. As you can see, where there was no belt, it's nice, but you'll still see the little bit of a ring around it where the belt was stuck on. But like I said, it is completely fine. There's no spots that I can feel at all at the moment that are bad. That'll give an indication that it's going to interfere with the new belt. And so that's where we're at right now. The next step is to put a new belt on it, and I will show you how that is done. Bear with me a moment while I go get a belt, and we will go to the next step. So I'm back with a new belt, and it's just exactly what you would think of a belt looking like. They come in various widths, various diameters. It's important to know which replacement one that you want to buy. Basically take the distance from here to here, times that by 2 to get a pretty good estimate of your diameter size that you need. This one happens to be a 21.6 inch belt, which is something that was kind of standard for a lot of turntables. I'm not exactly sure who produced this turntable, because MCS didn't produce any of their own turntables. They had other companies produce them for them before slapping their name on it. But I do know that Hitachi, and to even greater extent Techniques, made a lot of their turntables. You will see a lot of their turntables that have similar models in the Techniques line with the Techniques logo on it. Again, like I say, I'm not 100% sure who made this particular model, but it is nonetheless a pretty decent model. It's probably made in the early to possibly the mid 80s, and that was when they started getting a little cheaper on turntables in general. Gone were the old fashioned wood type of plinth ones. They started going with 100% plastic. That's what this one has. Probably weighs about 10 pounds at the maximum, whereas some of the older ones in the 70s could weigh as much as 20 to 25 pounds. I kind of out to lunch on if that weight difference was really made a difference in quality, because I think as time went by they refined things even more, so that if you were giving up wood over plastic, you were also getting better tone arms and better, more quieter motors and stuff like that. So it was kind of a trade-off. Plus the raw materials for the older stuff, the steel and the wood, was becoming more and more expensive. So in order to cut costs and not have to pass it on to the consumer, a lot of them went with the cheaper plastic. And to this day, a lot of the stuff you see in the lower end of the spectrum of modern turntables are still plastic. There are some out there that are made with wood, but they're usually in the 300 plus range. So this one here is a very, at the time, very basic turntable, but by today's standard is probably considered a little bit more than basic because the quality was there. Anyways, I'm going to show you how to put a belt on this type of a turntable platter. Basically take it and stretch it over this here, being careful not to, like I did here, not twisting the thing so that everything on there is flat. And once you've figured out that you've got that taken care of, the next thing for you to do, while I set this aside, I'm going to put the turntable back up here on the table so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. And over here you will see a pulley with this plastic here, which when you shift between 33 and 45 speeds, this will move on you to determine if you're going to have a 33 or 45 speed on your platter. This here, the easiest way to do something like this is you've got these openings, 3 of them around here. Take that, one of those openings, and physically pull it away from there, being careful to put it back on the center spindle, and then gently easing it down while putting the belt along that pulley. And I don't know if you can see that very well, but right now there's the belt and there's the pulley, and it is around there. And as you can see, unlike before, when I spin it, it doesn't go too far. The only reason it's going right now is because it's returning itself to the rest if this was turned on. which leads me to believe that we have solved the problem here. Another way to determine if things are working right, if you're not certain that the belt is going to be the easy solution to replace it, is if you were to take this and move it to the center where this should start turning, but if there isn't a belt on there, to make sure that it's not the motor that's burnt out or something, is to gently touch the spindle, and if it's moving on you, you'll know that there's nothing wrong with the motor and it's just the belt. That's the easiest way to figure things out. A lot of people don't know about that type of step, and that's why some perfectly good turntables sometimes end up in garage sales or thrift stores or the like. Excuse me, just because they weren't informed enough to know how it works. And I'm going to put the rubber mat back on. And I'm going to take the clip off here that holds it in place. I'm going to put the cue up, and I'm going to, so that I don't have to worry about this making contact with here and ruin my needle. And as you can see, we have a turntable that is now spinning, and it is spinning at 33. If I hit the button here for 45 speed, you can hear that click, and that means that it is now on the part of the spindle that will make it go at 45 speed. And this one here is a semi-automatic, which means that you need to put the record on the needle on the record by itself. But when it's done at the end of the record, or anytime you decide you don't want to listen to any more of the record, you can just hit this button over here, which is the reject button, and I will take that off, and it returns itself to that and shuts itself off. And that's what we have, ladies and gentlemen. We have a, once again, working turntable. This is the old-fashioned style turntable, so it does have the RCA and the ground wire to hook up to receiver that has phono on it. If you did not have a receiver with phono, you would have to hook this up to a little box in between the receiver and this, to which is called a preamplifier, and that would be able to turn this signal here into a signal that is not amplified, so that you could hook it into any auxiliary or any other type of input that is available. Sorry folks, I'm just getting over a cold. Other than that, I think this particular demonstration is done. We have officially got this back up and running, and I'm looking forward to listening to more records on it. This does have a sure needle on it, as you can see. There's the little sure thing. I've currently got this set at 0, so that it's just floating parallel with the thing. In order to get this dialed in right, I would take this here and move it to like 1.5 or 2 grams, and the same with the anti-skate over here. I would put that at the same setting as this is, and the record would no longer be floating. It would be on the record like it's supposed to be, and you'd be hearing wonderful music coming out of it. So hopefully this little tutorial helps you along in your journey with turntables. Like I say, a lot of them, the modern ones and a lot of old ones, were indeed belt drive. and it's important to know what to look for if your turntable suddenly isn't working. Hopefully I showed you some things here that will help you in that quest, and also show you that it is really not too hard to get it working again. All you need is the materials I showed you. Of course, a good stylus and needle, and that's about it. And just general knowledge of how to set up your tone arm and everything. Right now I can show you exactly what I was talking about. Take hold of this and go to, I'm going to go to about 1.5 inches, which is where it is right there. That little line there will line up with the line that's on the top here. And the same thing here, you line it up for 1.5, and there you've got a properly plain needle and stylus. So that is what I have for you today, and if you like this video, please let me know. If you didn't like it and think I'm full of malarkey, let me know also. Hopefully this video is informative enough to get a few more people who are on the fence about turntables because they don't know enough about them to reintroduce themselves into the wonderful world of analog audio. And please like my video if you like it. Please subscribe, because the more subscribers I get, the more I'll be able to make more videos, and that's what I'm here for. I'm here to make videos, I'm here to help, I'm here to review, and hopefully my videos that I've done so far have been doing that for people, and I hope to continue it much more longer into the future. Until next time, have a great day and goodbye.